The next morning, as they continued their journey through the forest, they were ambushed by a group of bandits. They appeared out of nowhere, emerging from the trees with swords drawn and eyes full of greed. "Hand over your belongings," one of the bandits shouted. Elena's heart raced. She had never been in a situation like this before. But Gustav acted quickly. He stepped in front of her, his face hardening with determination. "Stay behind me," he ordered, his voice low and steady. Without hesitation, Gustav pulled out his knife and lunged at the bandits. The fight was fierce, but Gustav was quick and skilled. He disarmed 2 of the bandits before they even had a chance to react. Elena watched in awe as he moved with precision, his body a blur of motion. Within minutes, the bandits fled into the trees, defeated. Gustav stood tall, his chest heaving from the exertion, but his face remained calm. Elena stared at him, wide-eyed. "That was incredible," she breathed. Gustav smiled faintly. "I've had a lot of practice." Elena's respect for him grew even more in that moment. She had always known that there was something special about Gustav, but seeing him in action made her realize just how strong and capable he truly was. After their close encounter with the bandits, Elena and Gustav walked in silence for a while. The forest felt different now, quieter, more peaceful. The tension of the fight still hung in the air, but both of them knew it was over. Gustav had proven himself to be a strong protector, and Elena felt a deep sense of gratitude for him. "Are you okay?" Gustav asked after a long pause. He glanced at Elena, his green eyes filled with concern. Elena nodded. "I'm fine. Just shaken, I guess. I've never seen anything like that before." Gustav gave her a reassuring smile. "You handled yourself well, but it's better if you leave the fighting to me. It's dangerous out here." Elena didn't mind being protected, but something inside her pushed back. She wanted to be strong, to prove that she wasn't just a helpless girl from a small village. "I don't want to just stand by. I want to learn how to protect myself too," she said, her voice steady but firm. Gustav paused and looked at her thoughtfully. "You're not like other girls, are you?" he said quietly, almost to himself. Elena was taken aback by his words. "What do you mean?" He turned to her fully now, his gaze steady and intense. "You don't seem content with the life that most people live. You want more than what the world expects from you." Elena smiled, a little surprised by his insight. "Yes, I've always felt like I was meant for something bigger, something beyond the village and the forge." Gustav nodded, and for a brief moment, they shared an understanding. A bond was forming between them, a quiet friendship built on mutual respect. They weren't the same, but that was what made their connection so strong. Both of them were searching for something different from what they had been given. For the rest of the day, they walked side by side, talking more freely now. Gustav told Elena more stories about the places he'd been, and Elena shared her dreams of the future. As the sun began to set, they found a small clearing near a stream, where they decided to set up camp for the night. That evening, as the fire crackled and the stars began to fill the sky, Elena felt at peace. She had made the right choice in leaving the village. The road ahead was still unknown, but she knew she wasn't alone anymore. And somehow, that made all the difference. The days passed quickly as Elena and Gustav traveled further from the village. The forest gave way to rolling hills, and the landscape became more open and vast. Elena could feel the change within herself. She was no longer the young woman who had dreamed of adventure from the safety of her home. She was living that adventure now. One evening, as they approached a new village, Elena felt a flutter of excitement in her chest. The village was larger than any she had seen before. The houses were made of stone, and the streets were lined with small shops and market stalls. It was a bustling place, full of people from all walks of life. Elena had never seen so many travelers in one place. As they entered the village, Elena couldn't help but stare at everything around her. The buildings were tall, with colorful banners hanging from the windows. People of all shapes and sizes walked past them, speaking in different languages and selling goods from every corner of the world. "This is incredible," Elena said, her voice filled with wonder. "It's so alive." Gustav looked at her, his expression unreadable. "It's a good place for a stop, but don't get too comfortable. The road calls to us." Elena nodded, but she was captivated by everything around her. The village felt like a whole new world, one that she had only dreamed of. She wanted to explore every corner of it, talk to the people, learn their stories. But she also knew that she couldn't stay in one place for too long. For the first time, she felt torn. She had come so far, but now, standing in the middle of this new world, she had to decide what came next. That night, as they sat by the fire in the village, Elena's mind was racing. She couldn't stop thinking about the life she could build here. There were so many opportunities, so many people to meet, so many things to learn. She could settle here, make a life for herself. She didn't have to keep traveling, didn't have to keep searching for something else. But then she thought of Gustav. He had always been on the move, never staying in one place for long. Could she live that life too? Could she give up the comfort of a home for the unknown just like him? What do you think of this place? Elena asked, as she poked at the fire with a stick. Gustav looked up from where he sat, his face unreadable. It's just another village. There's nothing special about it. Elena studied him for a moment. But you've been to so many villages like this, haven't you? Haven't you ever thought about staying somewhere for good? Gustav's expression softened, but he didn't answer right away. Instead, he stood up and walked to the edge of the firelight, looking out over the village. I've learned not to get too attached to places, he said quietly. People come and go. The world keeps moving, and so must I. Elena watched him closely. There was something in his voice, a sadness that she hadn't noticed before. It was as if he had seen too much, experienced too much, and now he couldn't settle anywhere. Not for long. I'm not sure I can live like that, Elena said, her voice uncertain. I like the idea of a place to call home. Gustav turned to her, his green eyes steady. You don't have to be like me, Elena. You don't have to follow my path. But the world is bigger than any one place. It's up to you whether you stay or go. Just remember, the road is always open. The following day, Elena continued to explore the village, but her thoughts kept returning to Gustav. She felt that there was so much more about him that she didn't know. She could tell that he was hiding something important. But every time she tried to ask him, he deflected. That evening, as they sat at the inn, Elena decided that she had to ask him directly. Gustav, she began, her voice calm but determined. I know you've been hiding something from me. I don't know what it is, but I can tell. Please, tell me. Gustav looked at her for a long moment, his face softening. Finally, he spoke. I haven't always been a traveler, Elena. There was a time when I had a family, a life that I thought would last forever. But things changed. I lost them, everything I cared about. And I realized that I couldn't stay in one place anymore. I couldn't let myself get attached. So I started traveling. Elena's heart ached as she listened. She hadn't expected this. I'm so sorry, Gustav. I had no idea. Gustav gave a small, sad smile. There's nothing to apologize for. It's just the way it is. Elena sat in silence for a moment, letting his words sink in. She understood now, in a way that she hadn't before. Gustav wasn't just a mysterious traveler. He was someone who had experienced great loss, and that loss had shaped who he was. Do you ever think about going back? She asked softly. Gustav's eyes grew distant. No, I don't think I can. The road is all I have now. Elena reached out and placed a hand on his. "You're not alone, Gustav. You have me." He looked at her, his green eyes searching her face. For the first time, he seemed to soften, as though he was considering the possibility of trusting someone again. The next few days were filled with quiet contemplation. Elena knew that the time had come for her to make a decision. She had learned so much on her journey, but the road ahead was still full of uncertainty. Would she continue traveling with Gustav, or would she settle down in one place? As they walked out of the village and back onto the open road, Elena made her decision. She would stay on the road. The world was vast, and she wanted to see it all. She knew there would be challenges, but she was ready to face them. And no matter what happened, she would not walk alone. "I'm ready," Elena said, as she looked at Gustav. "The road ahead may be difficult, but I'm not afraid." Gustav looked at her, a faint smile crossing his face. "Good. We'll face it together." And so, the two of them continued their journey, walking side by side, ready for whatever came next. As the sun set behind them, Elena and Gustav looked out over the wide, open road that stretched ahead. The future was uncertain, but one thing was clear. Elena had found her place in the world, and with Gustav by her side, she knew that no matter what the road held, she was ready to face it. Together, they would walk on.